What's up, everybody? Welcome to the PickSix podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Tuesday, June the 8th, and we are rolling through the offseason. We will be breaking down the most improved teams of the 2021 NFL offseason shortly, along with we'll do some news and notes from mini camps coming up in future episodes. You can go check out a mailbag show from Monday where we break we just answer mailbag questions. And if you want to leave a mailbag question for us to answer, you may do so in the YouTube comments or by doing a 5-star review, which is the preference. If you want, ask us questions. We need questions. Leave reviews. Leave 5-star reviews. It helps us in many different ways when you do that. We also have a Julio Jones traded emergency podcast because Julio Jones, big trade. Not big enough for John Breach to get off his tail and come do the podcast, but big enough for Ryan Wilson to hop on for 20, 30 minutes. And Wilson and I broke it down. Joining me now to talk about the most improved teams of the 20. Oh, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, tell us who you think is the most improved team of the NFL this offseason and let us know in the comments. We won't pick a winner, but hit that like button too. Like button helps a lot. By the way, you can follow the PickSix podcast on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify right now, go to the PickSix show page and hit that rectangle follow button so that when new episodes are dropped, they'll be at the top of your feed. You can also turn on alerts. So you'll get an alert that says new episode available. You can just click through that, bang, and listen. If you're listening elsewhere or watching on YouTube, give Spotify a try and drop us a follow on there. You got Spotify. Everybody's Spotify. Just search for PickSix podcast and hit follow. And hook us up. Help us out. Anywho, most improved teams. Joining me to talk about it, Ryan Wilson, John Breach. What's up, boys?
Hello, Breach. I'm glad you made it safely from your vacation. Number 2, by the way. Well, Brenton and I toiled on Sunday afternoon to cover the Julio Jones news. Are you safe, and did you have a great vacation?
Well, you know what's funny is that June 8th today is National Best Friends Day, and I was going to open the podcast by saying how lucky I am to be podcasting with my best friends. But man, after listening to this opening, you guys aren't my best friends. You're not even in the top 20 anymore. You're just throwing me under the bus for not showing up for this Julio Jones thing. I'm celebrating my brother-in-law's birthday in Alabama, and going to Alabama is not a vacation, despite what you guys may think. No offense to anyone in Alabama.
Wait.
Send it to his family.
I was going to say, isn't your family from Alabama? Interesting.
Your in-laws' families from Alabama.
My
and his
in-law
brother.
family. That's not against them. It's just if I had a choice of where to go for vacation, Alabama's not at the top of the list. That's all.
It would be Cancun in January if I had.
And for the rest, I mean, I wouldn't hate that.
A little teaser for those that don't know that John Breach will be skipping a large portion of the NFL regular season to go lounge in Cancun and drink fruity drinks.
You know, the most amazing part of that story Breach just told is that Tuesday, June 8th is actually Best Friends Day, National Best Friends Day. How is that a thing?
Thank you.
Incredible.
Thank you. Of course, I won't be celebrating with you guys because you're not my best friends.
What a weirdo.
Anymore.
Weird. Okay. You got no one else to turn to, Breach. I'm sorry. You're kind of screwed here. You're stuck. Like my wife, you're stuck. By the way, if it's Tuesday, June 8th, Friday, is it June 11th? Is that right?
That sounds right.
That would be my 10th anniversary.
Ooh.
10 years. I wonder what it feels like for AK.
50 years? I don't know.
Yeah, at least.
I think we're going to go, it actually worked out really well. We're going to do like a short little trip now and then a longer trip later.
So 2 vacations. Wilson didn't say anything to you.
That's called taking a breach.
Yeah, I was going to point out, by the way, that Ryan Wilson, truly one of America's, maybe the world's elite vacation shamers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're not supposed to do that anymore either. Okay.
And leaving town for the weekend is not a vacation.
Acknowledges that he's an elite vacation shamer.
I got to dial that back.
But you know what? The reason Wilson is such a good vacation shamer is because he gets ahead of it early because he knows that he takes this annual little camping soccer trip on Labor Day, which is a pretty key day, like weekend in the NFL. And so,
you know what's funny though? Here's why I haven't thought about it until now. Why I'm a vacation shamer. It used to be less so now. We just make fun of each other because back in the day, and we were talking about this before the podcast last week, I think. If Brinson takes off, me and Breach have to work those extra shifts when we used to all write together. That's why I'd be like, why are you never around every Friday and Saturday for the entire months of June, July, and August?
And host the podcast. So it like piles on to our responsibilities.
Correct.
Whereas if I disappear, that doesn't affect Brinson at all.
But now,
unless he has to do an emergency
No,
podcast.
it always has in the past. No, I don't care as much now. He's just it's
right. Yeah.
It's just in his nature to be a vacation chamber. That's
right.
how he operates.
100% accurate.
But as Brinson did say, every Labor Day since I've worked here, Wilson would mysteriously disappear. And
wasn't a mystery. I told you.
Mind you, that is cut day in the NFL. So that is a huge weekend that Wilson never was able to partake in because he was always on vacation.
Worth noting, and Breach, you can attest to this because Brinson joined CBS in 2010. I joined in 2011. In the years since 2011 to probably 2019, I think I didn't do it 2020. In fact, I'm sure I didn't. How many times do you think Brinson covered the Hall of Fame weekend? A big goose egg.
Yeah,
and
probably zero.
It is not a fun event to cover.
Over under zero.
You covered it with me a few times, and there's a mix of a live blog and a person recapping every single person's speech. And at no point, so I felt I had earned the right to disappear over the most important non-game playing weekend of the NFL calendar.
I think I covered like the first 2 or 3.
You did not.
Okay, well, about that time we started doing our annual fantasy football trip to Pinehurst, and it just happened to be that same weekend. And
no matter what,
can't put work ahead of fantasy football. Fantasy football really work too. We're really not doing a good job of promoting ourselves as hard workers right now. People that are,
I think people that listen to this podcast have a pretty good idea about our workout,
about how hard we work. That is exactly right, Ryan. Let's get into the work itself and talk about the most improved teams in the NFL. Wilson, we will start with you. Who is the most? And again, this is not who's the best. It could be, like Breach could, for all we know, say the Bengals, because we know the Bengals suck. The Bengals won't be good, but if Breach thinks they're the most improved team this offseason, that would qualify. So again, taking what a team had at the end of the year and getting to most improved. Who is your most improved team, Wilson?
I'm going to go with another team in Ohio that's not terrible, the Cleveland Browns. And that's a weird thing to say as a Steelers homer. Hopefully our buddy Ken Carmen, who hosts a radio show in Cleveland, will appreciate this if he's gotten this far. I can't imagine he has. I would have turned this off a long time ago. But I feel like the Browns are
from Ryan Wilson right there.
I know. Yeah, salesman of the year right here. I feel like the Browns, to quote Mike Tomlin, the arrow's pointing up on that organization. And I think a lot of it has to do, we always keep coming back to this. The Freddie Kitchens year was something you'd like to forget, but I think Andrew Berry was a huge get. I think Kevin Stefanski was a huge get. I think Baker Mayfield has been much more consistent under Stefanski for the reasons that we talked about forever. Once Stefanski arrived from Minnesota, is that he was going to lean on the running game and let his quarterback have success, and that's exactly what happened. This team is young on both sides of the ball. So they're one of the most improved teams for me, and they're doing it after winning 11 games last year, and they almost pulled off that playoff victory over the Chiefs after Patrick Mahomes went down, and we all remember how Chad Henne it up there the last end of the game to pull that out. But I mean, any other year in the last 20 years, the Browns would lose that game 100-0. So I think not only did they beat the Steelers in back-to-back weeks, week 17 in the first round of the playoffs, but that Chiefs game, I think, gave them confidence going into this next season. And now they're doing it with better players, healthier players. They signed, John Johnson III. They have Jadeveon Clowney, who I think helps not so much as an edge rusher, but as sort of a setting the edge run stuffer. Yeah, they're all the guys there. Then the draft, they got the cornerback Greg Newsome. They got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in round 2. They got Anthony Schwartz, who I sort of compared him to Mike Wallace in terms of being a straight-up burner. And they'll have guys coming back that were injured last year, Odell Beckham, Grant Delpit. I think Denzel Ward was injured for part of the year, but Greedy Williams was for sure. So, again, you put all these things together. Myles Garrett will be back. He'll now have some edge rush help on the opposite side of him. And you just feel like, and I think, Brinson, we talked about this one when Preach was on one of his other vacations. We're not talking enough about the Browns in that division. I think you said that the Ravens are slightly favored to win the division. I do wonder if that's going to change before the actual football starts.
I could very well could. I look at this, and I know you mentioned their names, but they grabbed John Johnson and Troy Hill from two youngish. I mean, Troy Hill's 30, but I mean like young, under the radar. And in the case of John Johnson, really ascending, I think, players from a really, really good defense in the Rams. Like, go out and poach some players in the Rams and add them to your secondary and make your secondary that much better. They also, Jadeveon Clowney is the sort of the headliner there, but 1-year deal, $8 million, that is not much at all. And he should be motivated to maybe get one more big contract if he can have a big year, in what you hope is a fairly full all season. Malik Jackson, cheap, nice depth there too. If he's healthy, he's an improved player, or he'll improve their defensive line, especially with the loss of Larry Ogunjobi. And then Takk McKinley, you're taking another flyer on a big name. I just think they really did a good job last offseason of focusing on the offense and making sure that they had all the right pieces in place to be this team that can run the football. And then this year you see it in the draft. And then of course in the free agency, they focused on defense. Greg Newsome II, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And I love the idea that they said, all right, we think our offense is good enough to win the way it's set up. Let's go improve the defense. And I think you can make a case for the best team in the AFC North, Breach.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think you can say that, even though I'm a Bengals homer. I'm not going to pretend like they are the best team. And you look at the Browns, and you guys mentioned everything they added. The only thing I would say about Cleveland and calling them the most improved, I guess, team in the NFL is what Ryan's saying here, is that, look, this team went 11-5 last year, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to improve on 11 wins. They
even
could
with
go
an extra game breach,
11-6, 10-7, but getting to 12-5 or 13-4 isn't going to be easy. And we're going to see more of Baker Mayfield. We need to see him continue to improve because he's been so up and down over his short career that you kind of don't know for sure what you're going to get from him. And once again, it feels like the season kind of comes down to how well Mayfield plays, although I think he's in a lot better place now because he's going to have the same offense 2 years in a row. He's going to be with Kevin Stefanski again. So I do think he's in a position to succeed. And like you guys said, the defense just seems a lot better. I know someone like Jadeveon Clowney, we haven't seen a lot from him over the past couple years, but now that he has Myles Garrett on the other side, he has a true star pass rusher that he gets to play with, that we also saw him, he's playing with JJ Watt in 2016, 2017, when he had two really good years. So I think Clowney could be someone who's sneaky good this year. So I do like what the Browns did. Are they most improved team in the NFL? I don't know about that, but they're definitely good and arguably the best team in the division.
Our buddies at William Hill have the Browns win total, as we said here, at 10.
I don't mind that over at all.
The Ravens, just for point of comparison, are 11.
I probably need to look at their schedule a little bit closer, but I think that over is a good look.
They open with the Chiefs, and I think that because if they come out and beat the Chiefs in week 1, they might go 13-4, because that's going to give them all the confidence in the world that they can beat anyone in the league. But if you come out and lose, 42-10, then all of a sudden it's, oh man, the same old Browns. They get better, but got worse.
I just think this Browns team is going to be steady. I think that's one of the biggest differences between Cleveland of the past and Cleveland under Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, and even with Baker Mayfield, who, was really fascinating that you see this offseason. Baker Mayfield essentially was like, look, I'm not going to be pounding the table for a new contract. It's cool. We're just going to play the next year.
I thought you were going to say he's not doing all these commercials that make you want to.
Well, he's not doing those either.
Seeing him.
Hey, look, Baker has always been treated as sort of like a diva and a punk by a bunch of people who don't like Baker Mayfield for whatever reason. I think.
Which, can I ask Debo a question?
Yeah,
because Debo, when we talked about Julio, I forgot to bring this up to Debo. Ken Carmen, who I just mentioned, wasn't happy about your Baker Mayfield take a few weeks ago, Debo. I didn't hear it. So what did you say about Baker?
Oh, I believe that's when we had to rank the previous Oklahoma quarterbacks and one current one. So we ranked Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, and Spencer Rattler. He should be a first-round pick. I had Baker fourth on that list.
That's right. I forgot about that. Okay.
Behind Jalen Hurts.
Yep. We'll talk in 2026, Brinson.
That's what it was. Okay.
We'll talk every year from 2021 to 2026. But I remind you what a dumb take that is.
And real quick on Baker, the fact that he's not asking. Go ahead, Diva.
No, it's not who's the best in 2023.
Devo's Is Debo in a?
He would cut himself off.
Sounds
Go
like
ahead,
he's
Bruce.
in a convertible while he's driving through a garbage truck. Is that possible? Because that's what it sounds like. I was just going to say real quick about Baker is that, Brenton, you did mention that he's not going after that contract right now, but that also benefits Baker Mayfield not to be doing that, because if I'm him, I'm waiting till Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen gets their deal done, and then I'm coming in hot after that, trying to either get close to beating it or beating it.
It'll be interesting to see how Baker's contract situation works out. I think, in my opinion, there's a very good chance that he will play well in 2021 and he'll get paid next offseason. But
what does that mean, though? That's north of 30, right?
Yeah, I think so. The problem for Baker, and I mentioned Baker as an MVP candidate, longer shot on 35-1. That's not a crazy number. I don't hate that.
I like the Trent Williams to win comeback player of the year much better.
Yeah, it was 200-1. Could have happened. At any rate, Baker. The problem is that if you look at Kevin Stefanski's 2019 in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, it is strikingly similar to Baker Mayfield's 2020 season in Cleveland. And one of the things that stands out to me is a fairly minimal amount of passing attempts and passing yards. And I don't think the Browns are going to suddenly become this chunk it deep, throw it all around team. They're going to be a team that has a run the football identity. That's what Kevin Stefanski wants. You use the bootlegs off the play action. And there's a couple games every year for Cleveland where, and this happens in lots of different spots, but Cleveland is notable just because of its location on some great big ass lake, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm kidding. We had the big lake discussion. At any rate,
oh right, yeah.
There were 2 or 3 games last year back to
lake.
Yeah, back-to-back games where the wind was crazy in Cleveland, and you just aren't going to get the same numbers. So I sort of wonder if we could see a little bit less money and a little bit less MVP award love for Baker Mayfield because the volume just isn't going to be there for a guy versus somebody like Dak Prescott or Matt Ryan, where they're going to throw.
Was Kirk Cousins at any point the highest paid quarterback with that 3-year deal?
No, he was never highest paid, but I mean, I think settling in at above, I don't know. I mean, at any rate,
I'll be a top 5 paid.
The larger point is that we're not going to have to talk about Baker Mayfield's contract till next year because Baker has said, I'm not going to create a distraction by slamming my hand on the, pounding my fist on the table, demanding money. And I think that I'm very impressed because that's an adult thing to do. I thought it was in his best interest to do that. And he's going to make everything a little bit smoother for his team this year. So I like that from Baker Mayfield. That makes me more confident in the Browns without the distractions we saw the first couple of years from them.
So top 5 quarterback would have to be north of $33.5 million a year. So he's getting that.
35?
He's getting that easy because
33.5.
The quarterback market's at 40. He's going to get close to that.
But only Dak has 40. Deshaun Watson has 39. Then Russ.
Yeah, but then you have, when
Josh
Lamar
Allen
Jackson and Josh Allen, they're both going to get close to that number if they don't beat it.
I mean, Jared Goff and Carson Wentz are getting paid 33.5 and 32 per year. So if Baker Mayfield has a slightly better season next year than he had last year, I mean, he's clearly surpassing Goff and Wentz in terms of quarterback abilities, unless Wentz takes another step forward or Goff magically becomes good in Detroit, which seems fairly unlikely.
By the way, fun fact, Andy Dalton makes more per year than Joe Burrow.
That's
$10 million to $9 million, 47.
A veteran makes more than someone on a rookie contract. Great fun fact, Ryan.
Andy Dalton is the veteran, though. It's not like it's, for example, what's his face? Clowney.
How much?
What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Clowney.
I'm just saying, like a sought after edge rusher, for example, versus a backup to the backup quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious that Andy Dalton would make more than Joe Burrow.
Why?
I mean, it's this.
Joe Burrow's on average making $9 million this year. You think Andy Dalton's worth more than that?
I just think a veteran quarterback is going to sign for roughly.
Jameis signed for what, $1 million?
Taysom Hill is making more than Joe Burrow.
Yeah, Jameis signed for 5.5.
Teddy Bridgewater is making more than Joe Burrow.
I mean, Jameis Winston's making more than Josh Allen this year. That's just sort of the point of the contract, like the rookie contracts. I don't know why. I thought you were just doing a bit where you tried to dunk on Breach for like a weird.
Joe Burrow was the first overall pick, and Andy Dalton is not very good. That's my point.
Okay, but that's not Joe Burrow can't control how much he makes.
Okay, then we're fine. I said it was a fun fact.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence makes more than Joe Burrow too. Like,
oh my God.
Ryan Fitzpatrick makes more than Trevor Lawrence. What's your point?
I can't believe Wilson tried to dunk on me, and then Brinson came in and just knocked him to the ground.
That's called a foul. Oh, that's called a foul, Donnie.
Down hard.
You two numbnuts have no idea what's going on.
We'll see. How about Big Ben, by the way? He came out and
what is that?
Adam Gold, my buddy in Raleigh, doing Raleigh Radio, asked me about this before I did the podcast. He was like, Big Ben is emphatic that it was his idea that he took the pay cut. You buying that? I was like, no.
Oh, that's an interesting twist. No. I want you to cut my salary.
Yeah. He went to the team. You know what's best? I should make less money than Derek Carr.
He did say after the season, before the actual pay cut happened, that he'd be willing to play for whatever number. And sure, you just say that to sound good publicly, but I'm not sure. He probably didn't ask for a pay cut. But when you say something like that, that kind of kills your negotiation or any leverage you have.
Remember, then the Steelers were like, they said, we're not sure if we're going to bring Ben back or not. We're still trying to make that decision. At that point, I think Ben wants to be able to say it was my idea. So he went to them and said, just cut me. I'm willing to take a pay cut. I am willing to take a pay cut. So technically he's probably right, but I think it was just imparted on him that he would be getting a pay cut. Anywho, are the Steelers one of the most improved teams in this offseason? Find out after the break. Breach. I can tell you the Steelers are not my most improved team this offseason. So really, there's only one person left to decide the fate of Ryan Wilson's favorite football team. Are the Steelers your most improved team this offseason?
Well, we know for a fact that literally the last team I would put as my most improved team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. If Ryan didn't put them there, we know they're not on this list. None of us had the Steelers on our most improved team list. So I thought about this a lot. I thought about, is the most improved team the team that I think is going to have the most extra wins? I like Jacksonville, I think, is a good candidate because they went 1-15 last year. I think they're going to be a lot better. They added a lot of talent. I thought about putting them Bengals, but I didn't want to sound too homerish. So in the end, I went with the New England Patriots. I think we all know what they did this offseason. They went in the free agency and spent $7 billion. They had Mac Jones fall into their lap during the draft. This offseason could not have gone any better for the Patriots. They just absolutely reloaded defensively. I think Matthew Judon's probably the biggest addition there. We know that Bill Belichick loves having as many tight ends as he can get his hands on, and he went out and got all the big ones with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. And the receivers, he added a few, nobody great, but definitely an improvement over what they had last year, which is all that matters. And what?
You would be an improvement over that, Breach.
For real. And the crazy thing is, you look at the Patriots roster from last season, and how many coaches could have take that roster and win 7 games? Like, it is a miracle that team went 7-9. Belichick should have gotten some Coach of the Year votes for that. And so, I think they've improved so much. I can't see any way they don't finish at least above 500. I don't think they're going to go out there and win the Super Bowl or go 13-4 or something. But I do think this is going to be a 9 or 10 win team.
Couple things. The win total, according to William Hill, is 9 for New England. Buffalo is at 10.5. They're obviously the favorites in that division. I think so if Cam Newton and or Mac Jones, some combination of those two, is 70% Cam Newton, and then Mac Jones plays at a pretty high level for rookie, I think they can win the division. I just feel like Belichick saw those 7 wins. And he's like, that's it. I'm done. As you know, DeBreach, he spent trillions of dollars. And also, this is sort of a Patriots move that we don't talk a lot about because it's not that exciting. But they'll send a player away, usually to Miami, and then they just sign him back a year later. They did that with Kyle Van Noy and Ted Karras, both players who played in Miami last year, both who were valuable beyond being sort of role players. Ted Karras started last year. Van Noy was an important part of that defense. And now they're back in New England as well, and they were part of the Super Bowl team a few years ago. So I think there are very few holes in this roster. I think the biggest hole, of course, is figuring out what happens at quarterback. And then second is probably wide receiver, but as you note, they're better than they were before.
The Patriots just by default have to be on this list. I was almost surprised this wasn't the team that Breach does that thing where he's like emails really quickly to grab the obvious answer. Then it's like, yeah, I'm super smart because I picked the obvious team. I mean,
to be fair, that was Sean's move.
That was Sean's move.
And then I stole it.
He would always pick the Chiefs to win the game. Like whatever, who's going to win this week? I'm going with the Chiefs.
Yeah. I've selected the Chiefs as my Super Bowl winner for the 2020 season. I am original and young. And
by the way, the best part of making fun of Sean is that listeners will appreciate this. Sean texted us the other day and said, I listened to the PickSix podcast for the first time in 3 or 4 months, whatever it was. 5 minutes in, you're already making fun of me for things that aren't true.
And that was also like the first time we had mentioned him in 2 or 3 months. So it's crazy that happened to be the one that he listened to.
In case he's listening today, I want him to know that we are getting far enough away from his employment by CBS that I'm starting to forget he was ever here and really not thinking about him that much. And you know, like once you get, somebody leaves as part of your podcast for a long time, there's a little void for a little while.
You're over him.
It's fine.
Right. It's like a girlfriend you had in high school and like, yeah, I didn't like her as much as I thought I did.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Somebody tweet this to Sean so he can
Sean. No, but look, the Patriots did a great job this offseason. You could quibble that Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar are not the pass catching receivers that you would want to add, but I do think they complement Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry well. They stood pat and grabbed Mac Jones in the draft, which was huge. Christian Barmore they moved up to get. I mean, this is Bill Belichick. Bama's the new Rutgers, baby. He said, I'm done trying to be cute and draft people from weird places. And I sort of wonder if this isn't maybe a bit of strategy from his part. He's talked openly that with Nick Caserio gone, and maybe this is Belichick sort of shifting some of the blame onto Nick Caserio for the struggles of the Patriots in the draft in recent years. And that would be perfectly fine because Caserio's good luck down in Houston, pal. And coming out of that smelling like roses. But Belichick now targeting with his first 3 picks here, Mac Jones, Christian Barmore, and Ronnie Perkins, big name like guys from big time schools. I mean, drafting 2 Alabama guys with his first 2 picks has not always been a staple for a Bill Belichick type of offseason, although I guess he did it in
I had a stat during the draft. I'm sure I've since deleted, but it was something like of all the draft eligible players since Nick Saban was hired at Alabama in 2007, I think like something like 8 or 9% went to New England.
Really? Is that right?
Yeah, it's something insane. Like there's a clear.
He does draft Alabama players.
That's all he does. That's right.
I feel like they hadn't done that in recent years, although maybe, you know what? Maybe it was the 2012 because they traded back up and got who they got? They got Chandler Jones, who was from Syracuse, and then Dante Hightower. But that sort of feels, I guess maybe I'm just anecdotally thinking this. It feels like whenever Belichick gets sort of in a tough spot from a roster perspective, he likes to reboot the Patriots with bigger, two big early picks from big schools. I didn't realize they drafted 8% of the freaking Bama.
You have to double check that, but it's something ridiculously high like that.
So he does draft a ton of Bama guys then, I guess.
But again, that makes sense too, because if you're taking a flyer on a kid from some D3 school, you have no idea how that's going to turn out. If you're number one, he and Nick Saban are apparently really close. You can see
they are very close.
That HBO documentary, which is very good. And I'm sure they talk about things beyond just what random coaches talk about who don't know each other in the college and NFL. So I would imagine there's a connection there as well. Okay,
scrolling through very quickly. Yes, he drafts tons of Alabama guys. but usually it's not like it actually it started in 2010 with Brandon Diedrich in the 7th round, Dante Hightower in the 1st round. He doesn't necessarily do it with his with a first round pick is the only difference, I think. Damian Harris, Anthony Jennings, both 3rd round picks, and then Mac Jones, Christian Barmore. So I mean, it's a lot of Oklahoma, but they basically went Power 5. They spent big in free agency and went Power 5 guys in this draft: Alabama, Oklahoma, Michigan, Missouri, Colorado, and then finally Trey Nixon from Central Florida. I mean, yeah, the Patriots are greatly improved. I would still pick the Bills to win the division. I think there's probably value in the Bills at -150 to win the division. And as I pointed out, I love the Bills over this year. But the Patriots should be much better. The unsold thing about their improvement this offseason, too, is that they're getting guys back, including Dante Hightower, Alabama guys.
Whoa. When you look at those division odds, though, I mean, the Patriots at +350,
And why
to
are they
win.
behind the Dolphins?
I mean, that is insanity. I would put some money on that just because that's a number you're never going to get again with the Patriots. And you look at what they did in the division last year. We all agreed that they weren't very good last year. They still went 3-3 in the division. They did go 0-2 against the Bills, but there was one game they probably would have won if Cam Newton doesn't fumble it away in the final 2 minutes. And you give them that game, all of a sudden they're 4-2 in the division. So there's no reason to think they can't go 4-2 and 5-1 in the division. Now it's the rest of the games you have to worry about. But man, at plus 350, that is enticing.
Would any of you take the Miami Dolphins at plus 340 over the Patriots at plus 350?
No.
I mean, why is that even there? I feel better about the Patriots quarterback situation than I do the Dolphins quarterback situation.
The one thing about Cam Newton too, and I mentioned this on radio with my pals Toucher and Rich on 98.5, the Sports Hub in New England, that it's tough to do this because you have 3 games before and 12 games afterwards. But Cam Newton was a different quarterback after he got COVID. He was much worse. He had played pretty well the first 3 games, I thought. And New England was 2-1 in those, and with their loss being to Seattle, where he got stuffed at the 1-yard line. They could have been 3-0. He gets COVID in week 4 against Kansas City. He almost beat KC. And then after that, he averaged under 65% completions, 162 yards per game, 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and really wasn't even as effective as a rusher. And he said, I don't know if has he said that COVID bothered him. I feel like that's not something Cam would say, but to me, it looked like it clearly.
No, it certainly could have. I don't know if he said it or not. And that's fair. I get it. But it's part that probably, but I also thought I wasn't convinced he was 100% healthy. So maybe the combination of the two and not being able to work out with the team and all that stuff means that he will be better. I think he got banged up at practice a few days ago. I haven't heard anything about it since, so maybe it's not a big deal. But yeah.
Well, but the difference too this year, and it goes back to why they're on the most improved list. Maybe you'll get a more improved Cam Newton, and if you don't, you have Mac Jones, who in theory is a high floor, can start for you as a rookie quarterback. We'll see how that pans out.
Here's what Cam said about that. He said, quote, "By the time I came back from COVID, I didn't feel comfortable physically or skillfully. A lot of that discomfort came pre-snap. I'm lost. I'm thinking too much. The offense kept going, but I was stopped and stagnant for 2 weeks." So it seems like he was a little everything. So COVID played a part. He felt like he regressed after getting it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So that's the Pats. They make the list. I told y'all earlier this year that I've got the Pats. I bet on the Pats at some point. Where is it? I can't find it. I bet on the Pats to win the division. I think at 4. I got them at 4-1 to win the AFC East.
Oh, yeah, that's good. And look, you mentioned that Seahawks game, and I mentioned the Bills game. This Patriots team, which was not good last year, was about 3 plays away from being 9-7. So between the Seahawks and the Bills game. So it is kind of crazy to think about what they did with such a bad roster, and now it's improved so much.
Yeah, I mean, it would not be insane at all for them to take a leap forward and just be a 10-win team and be very improved. So good pick, Breach. Unsurprisingly, you took the low-hanging fruit. I will take the Los Angeles Chargers. I thought about taking the Rams, but there's this weird thing going on with me and Breach where Breach Breach does this thing, Wilson, where if he has a take he likes, he's not going to discuss it and say, hey, I know you had this first. Breach is just going to start mentioning it as many times as possible. So that way he tricks people into believing it's his take that the Rams are the team to beat. The Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. So
it's one of the 5 signs that someone's a sociopath. I'm sure he does that with his wife. Like
in my defense, Wilson, I have been on the Rams bandwagon since the guy I went to college with got hired as their head coach.
I knew it. I know he's bringing that up.
So you've never picked him to make the Super Bowl?
I've picked him to go to the playoffs every year.
Until
I picked him to go to the playoffs every year.
I've been on the Matthew Stafford bandwagon since before Sean McVay was born.
That's not a good bandwagon to be on, man. He hasn't never won a playoff game. He's the Andy Dalton of the NFC.
You're on the Matthew Stafford bandwagon now. If you're on the Rams bandwagon.
Yeah, it's because it's a good bandwagon. It was before it had flat tires and was like going through an African savanna where the lions don't do anything there. That's where lions live.
We've gotten African safari, lions, and we've gotten driving through a garbage truck. from Breach.
A Corvette driving a top-down Corvette driving through a garbage.
It's the off season for us too. I'm working on this stuff. It's going to get better by the time we get back to the season.
I think
How
Breach.
about you workshop these analogies with your daughter before you bring them to the table on the podcast?
She's got some good ones.
Anywho, I thought about going with the Rams because of the Matthew Stafford addition, but we talk about Troy Hill and Josh Johnson. They lost plenty too, and I don't know they're necessarily definitely better. I mean, they're improved, but I don't know if they're the most improved. For the Chargers, however, I look at Chargers and the way that they looked on the offensive line coming into free agency was highly, highly concerning for me. It was Trey Pipkins, Forrest Lamp, Dan Feeney, Trey Turner, and Brian Bulaga, with Feeney and Lamp, I believe, being unrestricted free agents. So that was extremely concerning. They were basically losing everybody. And so then they go out and they have Bulaga stick around. They cut Trey Turner. They signed Corey Linsley in free agency from the Green Bay Packers. That is a big, big signing. A veteran.
Made Prisco's top 100 list.
As he should. And then they don't have to trade at all in the first round. And they were able to pick up Rashawn Slater as well. So they really, really improved that offensive line. And to me, that is critical to be able to improve your offensive line, particularly at the center position, when you have a young quarterback like Justin Herbert. Jared Cook, a very sneaky addition. I know Hunter Henry's I love Hunter Henry. I think he's a great young player. For the future, you'd rather have Hunter Henry over Jared Cook, but I'm not sure I wouldn't rather have Jared Cook 1 year, $4.5 million over Hunter Henry for 3 years and $38 million. That, to me,
you could get more than 2 Jared Cooks for 1 Andy Dalton. Just pointing that out.
Wow. Wow, Ryan.
Yeah.
Also, Matt Tyler, they also signed who's going to be a huge loss for the Steelers, who played right tackle in Pittsburgh. He'll probably kick inside.
Did your wife divorce you for Andy Dalton? Well, there's a lot of Andy Dalton hate going on right now.
Sounds like someone's projecting.
Looking to see, the Matt Tyler thing is big, and Ode Ibushi, who will also be on the inside as well. They also added Brendan Jameis in the draft in the 5th round. Just worth noting that that's another draft pick. And while we're on the subject of their draft selections, as I mentioned, Rashawn Slater in the 1st round. Then they come back and get Asante Samuel in the 2nd round. I thought Asante Samuel should have been a 1st round pick. It just sounds kind of stupid, and I don't know if it's stupid and obvious, but he's just Antoine Winfield Jr. This year's version. Like the next year later, a guy who has a father with a great NFL pedigree, showed incredible ball skills at a high level in college, undersized, and fell in the draft a little bit further than he probably should. He fell to the 2nd round because of his size, and he's going to come in and probably be an impact guy right away. And then Josh Palmer, you slot in there as well. So now you have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer. That's and they really like Jalen Guyton, I think, more than people are aware.
My buddy Chris Ayers talks him up all the time.
Yep, exactly. And so I look at this team with Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, Gabe Neighbors. This is a team I think can make some noise, but maybe the most important part of this team being upgraded and improved, the coaching staff. They got rid of Anthony Lynn, and Anthony Lynn's a good human being and by all accounts beloved by his locker room, but they got rid of him. They brought in the quote unquote defensive Sean McVay in Brandon Staley, who had been with the Rams last year. Great results from their defense. No, he does not have any head coaching experience. Yes, that can be a concern. Joe Lombardi is the offensive coordinator. We'll see how this works out at his next stop. But I think the coaching staff and what Brandon Staley will bring to this organization is a key added component of improving this franchise. I think the Chargers can make some noise.
Derwin James is coming back, by the way, so fingers crossed if he can stay healthy. That's a huge get. Joey Bosa. Has Melvin Ingram signed anywhere yet?
No, the prevailing logic was that he might sign with the Chargers. I think there's not a lot of money or interest in Melvin Ingram out there,
which is weird.
I think he's only visited the Dolphins and the Chiefs.
Like 31. He's not that old.
I think he's looking to skip offseason
OTAs,
and then he's just going to sign back.
Do the old sign in July.
Right. That defense is going to be pretty good. And
if Derwin and Joey Bosa are healthy, that defense will be a top.
And a guy to keep an eye on is Chris Rump, who was an edge rusher at Duke. They drafted him in the 4th round. He weighs 230 pounds. His dad, I think, is a defensive line coach in the NFL. So he has like incredible hands as a pass rusher, but he's going to be one of these guys like Derwin James that I think they're going to have to move around a little bit because of his size. So that's another sort of fast guy without a position piece that you have on that defense that you sort of have to have when you're in the same division as Patrick Mahomes. So that's going to be the matchup. We haven't even talked about Justin Herbert, which is sort of funny. That's how good he was last year. But that's sort of what you're aiming to do is to find a way to beat the Chiefs at least once. And then you have a chance to win the division, yada, yada, yada.
And Brenton mentioning the fact that Anthony Lynn is out is, look, all you had to do is bring in someone who can be a competent coach at the end of a football game, because that was not what Anthony Lynn was good at. If anything, it was the reverse. He would absolutely melt down, and the Chargers would blow lead after lead after lead. You look at their record last year, 7-9. 7 of those 9 losses were by 1 score. So games the Chargers could have or probably should have won, and instead they didn't, because the coaching staff was just continuing to make inept decisions down the stretch. So Brandon Staley cannot possibly be any worse. So that alone is an improvement with the end of game coaching.
12 of their 17 games were 1-score games.
It's not good.
I mean, they lost to OT to the Chiefs. They lost an OT to the Saints. They won an OT against the Raiders late in the season. God, they had that crippling loss in the regular season in week 9 to the Raiders, where it's like there were things going on that felt Chargery.
They almost lost to the Bengals.
Yeah, they should have lost to the Bengals in week 1. Boy, but then did somebody miss a field goal in that? I can't remember.
I'll talk about
Do you not have that drop anymore?
I think we got rid of it.
Oh, man.
I got rid of it and immediately regretted getting rid of it.
Jeez. We can find it.
At any rate, the point being, be better coached. Avoid some of these 1-score games, and you can avoid some of these 1-score losses, which I think is likely. They did check out as a 7-9 team in terms of their expected win-loss based on point differential last year. But, you watch that team and you could tell. I mean, they just didn't have it.
Yes. Agreed.
So, all right. Any more thoughts on the Chargers?
I think.
Let me see. What their win total is also 9. So their win total is 9, Breach, and the Chiefs are 12. So that's the 3 game is the difference according to Vegas. What they're doing in that division. Vegas
I think that Chargers over 9 is a really good bet.
Vegas 8, Denver 7.5. In case you're wondering for the rest.
I think Chargers to win the division at plus 600 is an interesting bet. It's if I'm only 20% sure it's going to happen, I feel good about the plus 600 number. But this team turns a few things around. We just mentioned all those games they lost that were close. They blew a 17-point lead to the Buccaneers. They blew a 17-point lead to the Saints. They blew huge leads. I mean, these weren't just like.
But you know what you're saying, Breach? You're saying that we know nothing about Brandon Staley, but I'm convinced he's
That's true.
4 games better than what they had previously.
That is what I'm saying.
Very interesting opening schedule. They were at Washington, Dallas week 2.
Oh, wait a second. That could be 0-2.
Could be 2-0. It's NFC East, Ryan.
I think it could also be 2-0. I mean, and then they're at the Chiefs, Raiders at home, Browns at home, at the Ravens before week 7 bye.
Wait a second. That is an incredibly tough start.
That is not easy.
That could be undefeated.
Well, I think they'll beat the Raiders, but certainly.
But those other games are not going to be. Where's the Browns game?
California.
At home.
Okay. All right.
They'll be favored in. Of those 6 games, they'll be favored in 4 of them. They'll be dogs at Baltimore and dogs at Kansas City. I think they'll be favored. I think they're basically a pick 'em at Washington, I believe.
Any concern about sophomore slump?
Yes.
You have.
I don't know about sophomore slump, but you are doing a new coaching staff, so that's a concern.
And he played out of his mind also, Justin Herbert did. So
statistically speaking, there is a strong likelihood that there is some regression. And this is, again, when we say regression, we don't mean Justin Herbert's going to suck. It's just like we talk about the Bears defense might regress a few years ago. It just happens naturally. When something.
Yes, like the Bengals won 2 games last year. The last 10 years, they've averaged 1 win a season, so they might regress to 1 win next year. That's all we're saying.
Unnecessary.
But also, you know what else with Herbert and other quarterbacks who were rookies last year? They're playing in front of an NFL crowd for the first time. So all of a sudden,
this is Breach's big thing. It was a salary cap last year. Now he's worried about the crowd effect on people.
Oh my God, there are people in the stands. I've never seen that before.
Well, when you're trying to score on the road with 2 minutes left and the crowd's cheering and you can't hear yourself think, and you haven't had to deal with that in 2 years, and you've never had to deal with it while trying to identify an NFL defense and make quick passes. That's something that could have an impact.
Fortunately for him, it won't matter in the home games.
That's true.
Heyo.
Oh!
Brinson dunking on the Chargers because they got rid of Phillip Rivers 2 years later.
After
the
picking
bye,
them
by
as
the
his
way,
favorite team.
Pats at Eagles, Vikings, Steelers at Broncos, at Bengals, Giants, Chiefs at Texans, Broncos at Raiders. That's a lot of. They're gonna, if they can go 4-2 or 3-3 in those opening stretch of games.
That is a huge.
That's not a huge ask.
No, that's a great start to the season. Is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'm saying if they can be at 500 or better, then this team is going to be making a playoff run.
Hey, Breach, where did the Chargers fit in your strength of schedule masterpiece? Do you remember?
I do not remember.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you know off the top of your head because this doesn't sound like an easy schedule to me. At least the first month and a half, but
the first 6 games are tough, and then
Yeah.
the Pats afterwards is not necessarily easy. But I mean, they got the Texans, the Broncos. I mean, we'll see about the Broncos. There doesn't sound like they're going to get Aaron Rodgers. That makes life a little bit tougher.
yeah, I wanted them to get Aaron Rodgers to make that division just incredibly insane.
So you saw 9 wins at William Hill.
Yeah.
I like over 9. Over 9.5 is plus money. I do think this.
And they're playing the NFC East. Like the NFC East was the worst, hands
they're
down,
going
the
to
worst division in football last
to
year.
Washington and to Dallas. Is that how the start is? Both on the road?
No, the Cowboys game's at home.
Okay. Well, that'll be filled with Cowboys fans, to your point, though, Breach. So that's something else you have to consider. There won't be Chargers fans, I would imagine, right?
That is true. So his first home game will actually be a road game.
I think Washington's going to be good. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to come out slinging, doing what he does. That defense is going to – that'll be a true test for Justin Herbert as well, to go up against that defense in week 1. Sweet mercy.
But also a test for Ryan Fitzpatrick. His first game with Washington, he's going up against the Chargers defense, which is really good.
Yeah, but he's going to play.
He might throw 6 interceptions.
On my site, the Colts over under is 9.5. The over is minus 154. Wow. And the Chargers 9.5. The over is plus 106. I understand that these are 2 different teams in different divisions, but I put them. I have the Chargers higher than the Colts. They got to play the Chiefs twice. I get it, but I would rather gamble on the Chargers just being great than the Colts being good.
I don't know. That's close. That's a close call. Put the Chargers in that division, then absolutely. But I think
if you flip the Chargers are like 5-1 to win the Super Bowl if you put it in the AFC South. By the way, the Chargers odds to win the Super Bowl 35-1. Is that right? I like that.
Same as the odds of what was the 35-1 bet you just mentioned that sounded ridiculous?
Baker Mayfield MVP.
Oh yeah.
Justin Herbert 20-1 to win.
Prince, you need to parlay Chargers Super Bowl win with Baker MVP.
You can retire.
Get it right.
Actually, I think I like Baker to win the MVP more than I like the Chargers to win the Super Bowl.
These Super Bowl numbers, the problem with the Super Bowl numbers is these sports books, and this is happening a little bit with the MVP right now too, because they've been gouged by Mahomes, and they've been gouged by the Bucks winning the Super Bowl, and they've been gouged by Lamar Jackson winning the MVP. So they are, and Aaron Rodgers hit him up pretty good, I think, this past year. I think that they are hesitant to give true Super Bowl odds, like 35. The actual odds of the Chargers winning the Super Bowl coming from the Chiefs division, with the plenty of other good, the Bills are in, the actual odds of the Chargers winning the Super Bowl is like 50-1, I think. But you're just not going to get that real number. They want it shrunk down so people don't have these longer looks at big payouts. I mean, and I understand that that's business. I just think when you look at some of these, there's only 8 or 9 teams, I believe, above 70 or 50-1 in terms of to win the Super Bowl, and they're pretty bad football.
But I think it's 35-1 and not 51 because odds makers are a little bit more worried that you have more teams getting in the playoffs. So look, it's almost 50%. If you're an AFC team, 7 out of 16 are getting in. And if you get in, all you have to do is get hot. I mean, we saw with the Buccaneers, they were a wild card team. They won every single playoff game on the road. They were 6-5 last season at one point and turned around and won the Super Bowl. So you get hit hot at the right time. And so I think because of the extra playoff spot, we've seen odds slightly not be where they should be.
Well, for instance, the Falcons are 75-1 to win the Super Bowl. I mean,
I love it. Oh.
It should be like 125.
It should be way more than that. It should be like 2,000-1.
Right, but they're not going to put the numbers up there because the Falcons have been to the Super Bowl recently.
Well, and they won't because what was that team in soccer that was like 5,000-1 odds?
Leicester City.
Leicester City. Because of that like you'll never see NFL odds over like plus 100, plus 150. I think is the max. You just don't see anymore.
Texans are 300. Texans and Lions are 300-1.
The 300, like that's literally as high as you'll ever see
Well,
on an NFL
the
team.
Texans I mean, I guess if Deshaun Watson came back,
Get that now. Deshaun's in there. At least you have a fighting chance.
No, you don't. You have zero chance.
I mean, the Eagles, Jags, Bengals, and the Eagles, Jags, and Bengals are 150 to 1.
The Eagles are in that group.
Bengals are winning the Super Bowl.
Wait, the Eagles are in the same group as the Jags and the Bengals?
That's correct.
Man, that was a precipitous fall off
That
the
hurts.
Super Bowl cliff.
That just means I'm going to win a lot of money when the Bengals win the Super Bowl, and I'm not going to give any of it to you guys.
Well, it makes you feel
What would
better.
the number
Briscoe-
need to be for the Bengals to win the Super Bowl for you to actually bet it, Breach?
What?
What would you think is the fair number for the Bengals to win the Super Bowl that you would bet? Because 151 does not feel.
What do you mean it doesn't feel right?
He's already bet it down from 200.
I would bet 150.
150 to 1.
Yeah.
Why? Why would you do that?
I'm reading these off. I went somewhere other than William Hill. That's my fault. Debo
Uh-oh.
Eagles are 75 to 1 on William Hill. I
Eagles
was
will not
trying
stand
to
for that.
find the number of teams who are below 50 in that order. It's just hard to do on their site. So you would bet the Bengals at 150 to 1?
Yes, maybe. Probably.
$1,000. What would
Okay,
what
William
would it
Hill's
be?
odds are even tighter. There's only the Panthers are 60. The Panthers are 60 to 1. This should not be 60 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. It's ridiculous. Panthers are 60 to 1. Like golfers on a weekly basis are more than 60 to 1 to win a tournament for the week. The Panthers should not be 60 to 1 to win the freaking Super Bowl. Just don't bet Super Bowl odds are bad.
Yeah, on William Hill, the Bengals are 100 to 1, the Lions are 150 to 1, and the Texans are 20 to 1.
200 to 1.
200.
Not 20 to 1. Yeah. So, but again, the Bengals are not 100 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. There's like 500 to 1.
Yeah,
That would be the actual odds of it actually happening, I think.
Oh, then I guess you're not going to bet them, are you, Brinson?
I would not be betting the Bengals at 100 to 1.
That's too bad because you know who thinks Joe Burrow's going to win multiple Super Bowls with the Bengals? Pete Briscoe.
All right, so let me put it this way. The Bengals are 24 to 1 to win their own division. And it's just 4 times more likely that they're to win the
No,
Super
because you
Bowl.
don't have to win your division to win the Super Bowl.
I know, but
All right, this is pointless. It's like talking to a baby, trying to reason with a baby to explain nuclear physics to you. We're good.
Bengals baby. Bengals baby
Yeah,
breach.
baby.
Bengals baby breach.
Bengals boss baby breach.
All right, that's it. We can get out of here. And
You're going to go play with the baby anyway.
a
So.
better topic would have been honorable mention most improved teams, but
By the way, do you think Breach's 1-year-old daughter thinks, God, I'm talking to a baby right now when her dad tries to have a conversation with her? Just the insane things he says to her.
Or she understands everything I'm saying because it's like two babies talking to each other.
That could also be the case. I bet she's smarter. Just a hunch.
She's betting on the Bengals.
I bet you're right. All right, let's get out of here. That's it for the show. Thanks for listening. We'll be doing, I think, are we doing triplet? No, what are we doing next? I don't know what the heck we're doing.
Come back and find out.
Stay tuned.